His is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. There's political intrigue, there's satire, there's an unnamed servant who makes all the difference in the story, and there is a politically powerful central character who is humbled and changed. This is the story of Naaman, the general of the Aramean army, and his declaration of faith in God. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. The story appears in a section of 2 Kings which contains several stories about Elisha the prophet and about the miracles he performs. Some of the stories are brief. This is one of the longer stories and contains several twists and turns, most of which I'll skip over. It suggests an answer to the question, does God favor some people over others, or is God concerned with all people? The story begins with the introduction of Naaman and his problem. He's a powerful man, but he has some form of leprosy. There's an interesting remark in this brief introduction that already gives us a clue about the extent of God's concern. We read, Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Aram, was a great man and in high favor with his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Aram. Right away, we know that although the Lord is known as the God of Israel, God's power and even God's favor can and does extend beyond Israel's borders. The rest of the story will bear this out. After a series of communications and miscommunications between Naaman and his king and with the king of Israel, Naaman finally reaches the prophet. Here the action turns a bit comical. Naaman and his entire entourage pull up in front of Elisha's house in expectation of a healing miracle. Now picture this in modern terms. Naaman, riding in a limousine and accompanied by several cars for his security guards and military aides. They all pull up in what is undoubtedly a humble little house. It is a visual display of Naaman's status and importance that is meant to impress upon the humble little prophet that he gets to serve a great man. Elisha is not impressed. Instead of inviting Naaman into his house, or better yet, coming out to provide curb service, Elisha simply sends one of his servants with a message to Naaman with instructions on how he may be cured. All he has to do, says Naaman, is go down to the Jordan River and dip himself in its muddy waters 7 times. With biting sarcasm, the writer of the story now satirizes Naaman. We read, Naaman became angry and went away, saying, I thought that for me he would surely come out and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and would wave his hand over the spot and cure the leprosy. Are not the Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be cleaned? He turned and went away in a rage. At this point, an unnamed servant injects his wisdom into the story. Father, he says, if the prophet had commanded you to do something difficult, would you not have done it? How much more when all he said to you was wash and be clean? And with that quiet counsel from an unnamed servant, Naaman follows the prophet's instructions. He goes to the muddy little Jordan River, dips himself 7 times, and comes out with skin as clear and clean as a child's. And with that, Naaman does something totally unexpected. He returns to the prophet and offers his gratitude to Elisha and to his God. We read, Then he returned to the man of God, he and all his company. He came and stood before him and said, Now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. Please accept a present from your servant. Notice what happens here. Naaman's humility is expressed in the fact that he stands before Elisha. Great men in that day stood for no one but their king. Great men sat while others stood before them. But here, Naaman stands before Elisha, a sign of his respect. And notice what he says to Elisha. Now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. Who does God care for? What are the limits of God's concern? Is God only concerned with the people of God? Or does God's care extend beyond? If we learn anything from this little story, is that there is no one who is beyond God's concern, not even the commander of the army of Israel's rival and sometime enemy. Tomorrow, the mysterious Melchizedek. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.